Hi everybody, Michelle McClunan, astrologer and life coach, and I'm bringing you another astrology update for the forthcoming full moon on the 9th of October. It's a very powerful full moon. Full moons always are powerful, but this one is particularly powerful due to the other planets that are in connection with it. So I'll try and unpack it for you. And the energy is building towards that full moon as we speak. So I'm putting this out on Friday or Saturday, so it's building towards that. So this will be applicable anytime up until the full moon and afterwards as well for a few days. So astrology really is the study of energy, and this is an energetic formation that happens once a month, the full moon. And it's always a time where sort of things are exposed. So if you look at the sun and you look at the sun shines directly onto the moon and lights up the moon. And so what we see is a lot of possibly hidden stuff that hasn't been looked at, being looked at full moon. So very often things come to light, things appear, things are clearer at full moon, and our issues can actually get bigger as well. Full moon's always a time to release and let go of what we no longer need. Whatever is holding us back from being our true, authentic, beautiful, radiant beings. That's what a full moon's going to do. It's going to give us the opportunity of seeing it clearly and letting go of whatever we don't need. So many people sort of say when they start any kind of spiritual journey, any kind of journey to consciousness or awakening, that things tend to keep coming up for them. And it can be unpleasant sometimes. But that's what happens when we engage on a journey. We say, okay, we would like to be free. We'd like to be authentic. We'd like to step into our power. And what happens is that whatever is stopping that from happening is going to be shown to us. So that's what this journey is about. And it's often called the hero's journey, because not everybody wants to look at that stuff. So the reason I'm actually speaking about that this month is the full moon is in the sign of Aries, opposite the sun and Venus in the sign of Libra. Along with the moon, we have Chiron, the wounded healer. So there's this opposition between Chiron and the moon and the sun and Venus in Libra. And it's a very polarized kind of axis, but it's also an axis which asks us to find balance and peace within all the noise. There's a lot of fire, a lot of air in the planets at the moment. And what does that do? It sort of ignites. It's quite big energy. And so just be aware of that if stuff sort of starts to come at you, if it seems a little bit overwhelming, it's a really good weekend to just ground, to find time to walk in nature, to sit under a tree, to walk next to a water course, or to submerge yourself in water. So to actually balance all the fire and all the air. Remember, air fans fire. And fire is an element that's associated very often with impatience, with aggression. It can be very energizing as well. It can be very creative, but it kind of wants to get a move on, especially the moon in Aries, along with Chiron. It's kind of impatient. It wants to move forward. That fire is being fanned. So we just need to ground. We need to bring ourselves back into that midpoint of the scales, which is where we find our balance. So that's a very big theme, this full moon. The other theme that's happening is on the day of the full moon, Pluto, which has been retrograde since April, is actually what we call stationing, which means that from our perspective, it looks like it's standing still and then very slowly moving forward, starting to move forward. And that's going to be followed by a number of planets actually moving forward after having been retrograde for a long time. So this stationary period where it's just moving, what it tends to do, any planet that is stationing, going direct, or stationing, going retrograde, is more powerful because the energy is kind of deeper and it kind of penetrates. So when you look at Pluto is the planet of intensity. So when Pluto is stationary, turning direct, there's usually an intensifying of its energy. And very often this will be a culmination point of something that happened when it went retrograde, which was in April this year. So you can look back if you journal and see what was going on for you in April and see what's shifted, see how you have shifted, revisit themes in your life to see which ones are leaving, which ones are dying. Pluto is the planet of death, rebirth, and regeneration. What in my life needs to be regenerated, rebirthed. And in order to do that, what do I need to let go of? So that is another intense sort of pattern that's coming up this full moon. It can bring out anything that's still sitting there hovering. So this is really a time where I believe that we're clearing anything that is preventing us or blocking our light. So anything that's coming up for you, any old patterns, any old fears, don't see it as a bad thing. Don't see it as a failure. Just say, okay, this is coming up because it's still there. It's coming out because it's inside me. You're not being given suffering. The suffering and the pain is already inside us. And to actually move it and shift it, we have to see it so that we can actually release it. So it could be quite an intense weekend and week ahead. It's actually quite an intense month, October, because we also have Saturn and Uranus in their final square. And right now it's pretty close to exact, which has been happening all year, which is the old versus the new. Structure and order and authoritarianism versus freedom. Letting go of the old ways of doing things and embracing a new way of doing things. Possibly looking at working with people in more of a community way than we have in the past. Changes to our financial systems, which we've seen all over the place. Changes to our food supplies. This has all been happening for the whole year, and this is the final square of that. So it can also be quite intense. The other thing with this full moon is that we have the moon next to Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer. So Chiron is that part of us which feels not whole. It feels maybe broken. It's the part of us that might not feel that we're worthy, or that doubts, the part of us that feels that we're somehow damaged or flawed in some way. So depending on your chart and depending on where Chiron is in your chart, that would describe what that wound signifies for you. It's almost, if you followed any of Eckhart Tolle's teachings, it's the pain body. You could see it as the shadow. But it always is there to teach us what is there that is blocking our light. So in healing, when you're doing a healing session on someone and you're working with energy, wherever that block is, wherever that pain is, wherever that pain body is, it'll often feel almost like a marble in a hose pipe. And this full moons and big events like this, big cosmic events like this, are chances and opportunities to clear those blocks. But in order to clear them, many times we have to see them. So that process of seeing them can come about through relationships. Libra, the sign of relationships. Triggering the moon next to Chiron, which is what's happening for you. How do you actually feel about yourself? What are these doubts that you still have? Not to analyze them, to just feel it. Do you still have fear? Yes, you do. Which part of you has fear? It's really about also looking at the roles that we identify ourselves with, because Aries is very much about who am I, what's my identity, what are my roles in the world, and what is happening as we awaken and as we bring ourselves into alignment with Gaia, with Mother Earth, which is what's happening. Mother Earth is actually shifting herself, because she's a live being, and we are being called upon to raise our consciousness to keep up with that. And so we will be shown anything that isn't actually in alignment with that. So these very intense processes that we're going through as a species are here to actually help us to heal or to become whole. And that Chiron is the healer. It's the wounded healer, but it's the one who shows us what there is that isn't whole. So wholeness is coming back to the realization that we are one with all, that we are not separate, we are not damaged, we are not flawed. At our essence, we are full, complete beings of awareness, of light, of love. Whatever isn't that will be shown to us. And so with great gentleness and compassion, if those things get shown to you this weekend or in the next few weeks, keep bringing yourself back. The other part of this is we've got quite a big alignment as well with Neptune, Mercury, which is the planet of the mind, and Mars, which is the planet of forward motion, are both in kind of a tricky alignment with Neptune, which is kind of almost feels like everything's shrouded in a bit of mystery. So there's a sense of wanting to move forward, Mars wanting to move forward, Mercury wanting to have plans. What's the next plan? And that's not clear. So many of us are in a state of limbo at the moment. We may have left one situation and are not sure of the next situation, or we might be moving, or we might be in the process of actually shifting one into the other, and we can't see clearly. And so it's not to be in resistance about that. It's to say, well, if I'm not seeing it clearly, then I'm not supposed to see it clearly. If this isn't manifesting yet, then it isn't supposed to manifest yet. If I'm not sure, then I'm not sure. So it's really a time of seeing the resistance to the unknown and actually stepping back and saying, okay, it's the unknown. Clearly, I don't need to know this. I'm not supposed to know it. So that is all taking us to a deeper level of our awareness and our consciousness and our connection. So just if you are in that situation, the more we can surrender to the unknown, the better. The more we can accept that we don't know, the better. The more we can say, okay, I'm letting it unfold. And we can't force an unfolding. It's a bit like a flower. You've got your flower and the flower eventually blooms when it's ready. You cannot go and actually force the petals of the flower open. And we tend to do that as humans. Nature doesn't do that, we do. So just to ask yourself, where am I trying to force the flower to open? Where am I trying to force something that's not ready yet? And it's in the process. We can't always see the process because it's invisible, but it's happening. The shifts and the changes are happening within us. We are transforming. And this is a very, very transformative full moon. So take some time over the weekend, over the next few days, to ground yourself, to be quiet, to listen to what your inner voice is saying. Instead of just speaking to other people, to really listen to what's going on for you, to feel it. Yeah, there's a fear. Okay, I'm ready and open and safe enough to feel this. There's an emotion that's arising in me. To say to yourself, in this moment, even though I'm feeling this way, I deeply love and approve of myself. It's one of the most powerful statements we can ever make. Even though I'm experiencing this feeling, this emotion, this concern, this anxiety, this sadness, whatever it is, I deeply love and approve of myself in this moment right now. And in that moment, you are healing. Just by doing that, you're not forcing anything. You're not trying to understand it. You're not trying to unpack it. You're not trying to remedy it, fix it. You're just accepting it and saying, I approve of myself. I love myself right now. That's all we ever want as humans. We want to be approved of. We want to be loved. We want to be accepted. So this is a time for us to do that for ourselves. So I hope that's helped. Lots and lots of love to you all. If you'd like a reading to see where this is all playing out in your chart, you're very welcome to contact me. The details are below. And if you did like this video and it did help you, please like and subscribe with the little bell so that you get notified when I put a video out, and share it if it works for you and if it's helped. Thanks so much for listening, and have a beautiful weekend.